The 1960s gave us the golden age of American horsepower, a decade when Detroit's Big Three declared war on the quarter mile and unleashed pure automotive fury onto America's streets. These weren't just cars, they were 400 cubic inch statements of rebellion wrapped in steel and chrome. Today, we're counting down the 10 greatest muscle cars that defined an entire generation. I'm your host, and if you've got gasoline running through your veins like I do, you're in the right place. We're talking about the cars that could go from zero to legend in 13 seconds flat. So buckle up because we're taking a trip back to when horsepower was king, and the only thing better than one carburetor was four. Starting at number 10, we've got the 1967 Camaro SS 396. When Ford's Mustang was eating Chevy's lunch, General Motors fired back with this beauty. The L78 big block pumped out 375 horses from 396 cubic inches of pure Cleveland fury. But here's what made the 67 special. It wasn't just about raw power. This was the year Chevy got the handling right, with a longer wheelbase than the Mustang and near-perfect weight distribution. The cowl induction hood became iconic. And that Rally Sport hidden headlight option? Pure sex appeal. They built over 220,000 Camaros that first year, but only about 35,000 got the SS 396 treatment. Number 9 takes us to Mopar territory with the 1968 Dodge Charger HRT 440. Cubic inches, 375 horsepower, and a profile that could stop traffic from 3 blocks away. The second-generation Charger wasn't just a redesign, it was a complete reimagining of what American muscle could look like. That Coke bottle shape and hidden headlights made it look fast standing still. But the real magic happened under that long hood. The 440 Magnum was Chrysler's answer to the big block wars, and it delivered torques like a freight train. Optional was the legendary 426 Hemi, pushing 425 horsepower and enough attitude to clear a room. This was Dodge saying they weren't content to play second fiddle to anyone. At number 8, we're talking about the 1969 Plymouth Road Runner. While other manufacturers were loading their muscle cars with luxury options and pushing prices through the roof, Plymouth had a different idea: strip it down, beef it up, and price it so a working man could afford it. The 383 4-barrel put out 335 horsepower in base form, but the real party started with the optional 440 6-pack or the legendary 426. Hemi.Plymouth even paid Warner Brothers to use the Road Runner cartoon character and that iconic beep beep horn. This wasn't about impressing the country club crowd. This was pure, unapologetic muscle for the everyman. Starting at just $2,296, they sold over $80,000 in the first year alone. Number 7 brings us to the 1966 Shelby Cobra 427. Now, technically, this was an Anglo-American hybrid, but when Carroll Shelby stuffed Ford's 427 side oiler into that lightweight British chassis, he created something purely American in spirit: raw, uncompromising, and slightly dangerous. We're talking about 425 horsepower in a car that weighed barely 2,500 pounds. The power-to-weight ratio was absolutely insane for the era. This wasn't a car you drove to the grocery store. This was a weapon disguised as transportation. Only about 350 street versions were ever built, making it rarer than honest politicians. The Cobra proved that American muscle didn't always need to be big and heavy to be devastating. At number 6, we've got the 1969 Dodge Super Bee. If the Road Runner was Plymouth's budget muscle car, the Super Bee was Dodge's answer, and they weren't messing around. The standard 383 Magnum delivered 335 horsepower, but like its Plymouth cousin, the real fun started with the big block options. The Super Bee took the basic Coronet platform and turned it into a street fighter. That distinctive bumblebee stripe and aggressive hood treatment weren't just for show, they were warnings. The 6-pack 440 option was particularly nasty, with 3 2-barrel carburetors that would open up like the gates of hell when you buried the throttle. This was Dodge's blue-collar hero, designed for guys who worked hard and played harder. Number 5 takes us to the 1970 Plymouth Cuda. I know we're stepping into the 70s, but the third-generation E-body Cuda was so revolutionary it deserves recognition. This was Plymouth's answer to the Camaro and Mustang, but with typical Mopar attitude cranked up to 11. The 440 6-pack was standard in the Cuda, but the real monster was the 426 Hemi option. 426 cubic inches, 425 horsepower, and a reputation that preceded it into every parking lot. Only about 650 Hemi Cudas were built. That aggressive split grille and bold graphics weren't subtle. They were declarations of war, arriving just as emissions regulations were about to change everything forever. At number 4, we're talking about the 1967 Shelby GT500 Carroll. Shelby took Ford's already potent Mustang and turned it into something that could humble Corvettes and Cobras alike. The 428 Police Interceptor engine was conservatively rated at 355 horsepower, but everyone knew the real number was closer to 400. This wasn't just about straight-line speed. Shelby transformed the Mustang's handling with upgraded suspension, better brakes, and wider tires. The functional scoops and aggressive bodywork weren't just for show. They fed air to that hungry big block. Only about 2,000 GT500s were built in 1967, making them instant collectibles. This was American muscle engineering at its finest. The bronze medal goes to the 1969 Chevelle SS 396. When Chevy needed to compete with the big boys, they took their mid-size Chevelle and gave it the full performance treatment. The L78 396 pushed out 375 horsepower, but the real star was the aluminum head L89 option that shaved 75 pounds off the front end. The 69 Chevelle SS had proportions that were absolutely perfect. Long hood, short deck, and just the right amount of chrome. This was Detroit styling at its peak, combining aggression with elegance. But it wasn't just a pretty face. The Chevelle SS could run with anything on the street, and its reasonable price made it accessible to young buyers who actually drove them hard. At number 2, we have the 1966 Pontiac GTO, the car that started the muscle car wars. The Tri-Power 389 delivered 360 horsepower through 3 two-barrel carburetors, and that distinctive exhaust note announced your arrival from blocks away. The GTO proved that mid-size cars could handle big engines, and more importantly, that young buyers would line up to buy them. Pontiac's youth-oriented marketing was brilliant. They understood that muscle cars weren't just about transportation. They were about identity. The GTO wasn't just fast. It was cool in a way that resonated with a generation coming of age in the 60s. This was the original, the one that started it all, and at number 1, the undisputed king of 1960s muscle, the 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona. I know some of you were expecting the Hemi Cuda, but hear me out. The Charger Daytona wasn't just a muscle car, it was a 200-mile-off statement that American engineering could compete with anything in the world. That massive wing and pointed nose weren't just for show. They were functional aerodynamic aids that helped the Daytona become the first stock car to break 200 mph at Talladega. The 440 Magnum was standard, but the 426 Hemi option turned this into a street-legal race car. Only 503 were ever built, making it one of the rarest muscle cars ever produced. This represented the absolute peak of American automotive ambition. The 1960s were a magical time. When horsepower was cheap, gas was cheaper, and the only thing that mattered was speed. These 10 cars represent the absolute best of that era, each one a masterpiece of engineering and attitude. So what do you think? Did your favorite make the list? Drop a comment below and let me know which 60s muscle car gets your heart racing. Don't forget to subscribe. We've got more classic American iron coming your way. Until next time, keep the shiny side up.